Due to the nature of strong language in today's episode, viewer discretion is advised. Today on Blissfully Tea Drunk with Welcome to the show! Like I said, my name's Cody, and today we're showing musical residents for season 4. Alright, Ethan, let's introduce you to the audience. Ethan. Alrighty, Ethan. Okay, Ethan, we got it. Hi.
Okay.
Hi.
I'm Ethan.
Yes, and you're here for the entirety of season 4. You're our musical residents.
Yes, I am. Very
Chris.
Professional.
So you're going to be here for the entirety of season 4. You're going to help close out our episodes. So have you seen the show before?
I actually haven't.
Great. Well, now there's an excuse for you to watch the show now.
I know. Finally.
All right. So Ethan's going to play us in at the beginning of each episode, and he's going to play us out at the end of each episode. Ethan is a tea drinker here in the tea community. He's great at playing the saxophone, and we are going to hear from him throughout the whole season. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
All righty. So moving on. Just not great or what? He's going to be here all season. Alrighty, to get the show started, we are actually going to go down to the tea spot where we're going to see what it's like to run a tea facility. Alrighty, voiceover Cody, let's get the show on the road. Welcome to the tea spot. Maria, the CEO of the tea spot, invited us down to Louisville, Colorado to take a first look at what a tea facility looks like. To start the tour, we started in the CEO's office. This is where we found a board table full of tea trays and a china cabinet full of tea cakes and teaware from across the globe. And this gung fu tea table is what the CEO calls her desk. Next, we were shown to the package area where teas are picked by pickers to be sent out to their final destination. They're divided by tea types, organic, non-organic, and other various types of organization. Behind this area, there were massive boxes upon rows of teas that are prepackaged, ready to be sent off to their final home. These orders will go out to vendors who sell their tea in stores, or to tea drinkers like you and me. Further along, we were shown an industrial-sized tea mixer, where teas are poured in at the top, blended, and then later bagged. There are rows upon rows of blended teas, or single-source teas, and other herbs and spices waiting to be mixed together. The warehouse is full of them, while being food safe, sanitary, and clean. At this part of the factory, we saw the tea bagging machine, where tea bags come on a roll, they are fed into the machine, and evenly dispensed by weight. All of it's done automatically by machine. The tea is measured by weight here, where it is dropped down a chute into the tea bag, where it is then cut and heat sealed at the same time, all in one swift motion. This is the birth of a tea bag. any type of tea can be fed up into the top. This is how high-quality teas are also bagged. Thank you, Evan, for the beautiful backtrack. Now let's move on to Maria, who will tell us more about the facility.
Maria, how long have you had the tea spot for? How long has the tea spot been open for?
So 18 years we've been doing this. And it's been quite a while. And I really feel that each year we get more and more established and build a better infrastructure. I feel that with each year that we continue, the future for the tea spot bodes even further, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
So in starting out as a smaller company, obviously you didn't start out in that facility like right off the bat.
Not at all. No, started out in my home, me, my kids, and some friends of theirs developing teas. So that's the beginnings were, of course, really, really tiny. I spent 2 years essentially in R&D, just developing 6 core blends, some of which persist even today. So a lot of our top sellers, Boulder Breakfast, Meditative Mind, Boulder Blues, and Red Rocks were developed in that time. I also knew at that time, God help us, we called it So Long Oolong, but I knew that I wanted an Anshi style Tigwan Yin, and that's now our Iron Goddess of Mercy. But so much is dependent, I feel, in a business, in a small business, on your base and on the homework that you do ahead of time to ensure that once you get going, it's all systems go, because stuff happens. And so you need to deal with the everyday things that come flying at you in your business.
Well, speaking of, so I might have dug up something. I might have dug up an older photograph, and this might have been from the Tea Spot's first year. And I'm going to send you this photo. I just texted it to you. And I'm going to throw it up here on the screen. So can you tell me where this photo is and what's going on here?
Oh my God.
I dug this up. I had help from someone.
I look so young.
You're still fabulous. You're fabulous there. You're still fabulous now. But was that your first? That must have been your first year. That had to be.
Make me cry. That was definitely my first year. In fact, that may be even like before we actually opened the business. So this is from, I believe, the first World Tea Expo, which, if you know when that was, we could figure out if this was before or after I started my company. The domain name isn't exactly the same, or maybe we did have that domain name and then switched it. And so God help me if this.
This is from 2003.
Okay, so this is from before we actually started. So I'm just in full-on R&D mode here.
Oh, wow. Do you remember the first World Tea Expo and being there at it?
Yes, and these are actually those teas that I just mentioned to you in these little tins on the right, which is like pre-our brand. So, oh my gosh, this is hilarious. But thank you for sharing this. And this was a teapot with an automatic timer that then rotated the infuser out of the water at the end of the infusion. It was a pain in the rear. It cost too much to manufacture. Perhaps if we were to do a product like this today, we would have the capital to be able to continue with it. But it caused more problems than created opportunities, and we ultimately let it go.
So how has the world of tea changed since the first World Tea Expo, since this one?
Oh, wow. So dramatically and so positively, I have to say, in North America. At the time, really my big impetus for starting the company was to make fresher teas available and accessible to the consumer. So I didn't mean for this to be a demo, but for instance, you couldn't buy a nice, fresh, new, this year's Sencha without, for instance, going to Itoen Tea House that they had in New York, or there was another great Japanese place in New York which burned down. Anyway, it was really hard to come by good quality teas. And at the time, I'd started seeking teas for their health benefits. And it was actually in July of 2004, when the company did actually start, that I got my no evidence of disease prognosis after going through cancer. So this was while I was still kind of in that final phase that I was doing this stuff. And you can see that my hair had grown from almost zero in that picture that you just shared. So it was truly out of a desire to create a lifestyle company that could make this healthy product, which is the number one source of polyphenol antioxidants on the planet, yet it was in the 5th position consumed in the US back in those days, behind coffee, beer, milk, and soft drinks. So, kind of inexcusable, I hate to say, because worldwide, tea is the 2nd most consumed beverage after water. And for good reasons. It's good for you. Populations which drink more tea on a regular basis tend to have lower incidences of some cancers. So, long story short, and I promised I wouldn't drag any of these answers too long. This one I did. It was to make fresher teas available. However, today, you can get great teas in so many places in the States. And of course, online marketing has taken off since in the past 20 years as well. So, all of these wonderful things are available to any of us if we're willing to budget for them.
So as far as, I'm so glad you were able to recover. And in that photo, consider you're the final stages of treatment. You look fabulous. Like, I don't
Thank you.
I don't know anyone that could be that fabulous, like, their last stages of treatment, like only you could. And I'm so glad that you've been in remission this whole time. And you're a powerful woman as far as your spirit goes, and you've had so many roadblocks in your way, and nothing stops you. And for
I don't think you need to look at them as roadblocks, detours.
Well, setting the example here, I'm glad that you were here today. Thank you, Maria.
On that note, thank you. Take good care. Bye-bye, Cody.
Wasn't that great? I don't know if you could tell from the interview, but I am a fan of Maria. Anyways, let's go on and move on to our panel. Let's jump on over.
So welcome to my first panel of Blissfully Tea Drunk with season 4. And you guys, you had to have seen Ethan over there. Wasn't he great?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And speaking of, I have this fun hat that I thought I would bring out onto the show. And yeah, it's such a fun hat and it's so big. I have to wear it for today's panel.
It's very stylish.
Is that your tea garden hat?
I'm like Lord from Her Perfect Places music video. I'm harvesting rice in fields of New Zealand. So
I feel like you could make that tea.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and introduce everybody on our first panel of the 4th season. So over to my right, we have Nicole, who is Tea for Me, Please. She is a blogger, but she's actually not a business. So we'll go into that in a second. I'll ask her about that in a minute. But below her, we have Chris, who is at Starbucks and World Tea Media. And below me, we have Jenn, who is the Barefoot Tea Lady, who's been a longtime blogger / YouTuber, probably since like longer than I've been in it. So let's go around and do brief introduction. So Nicole, you're a blogger, Tea for Me, Please.
Yep.
But you're not a blogger anymore. You're an LLC. So you're a business.
I'm still a blogger, just after like 13 years of like stick-toing it, the blog is finally making a little bit of money. So I had to basically form an LLC to be able to kind of like legally handle all that money.
Gotcha. I mean, one of the great things of being a business is there are no pronouns. So you have that advantage. You could use it at any point.
You have that advantage.
The IRS doesn't care. So Chris, you work at Starbucks and World Tea Media. So if you can give a brief explanation as to what you do at both. Like, why are you important? Wait, that came off a little...
I'm important because I'm the global tea development lead at Starbucks. So I do a lot of all the tea blending and kind of tea sourcing quality work. I work on developing those things at origin and bringing them in, and then also doing blends and flavored products for all the markets for that Starbucks services. And then at World Tea Expo, I'm on the advisory board for World Tea Expo and, work hand in glove with them to try and promote the show and all things tea. And then I guess I, started to do the Instagram thing at That Tea Guy Chris. So, I throw some reels up every now and then.
So quick question. I'm going to segue this for just a quick moment. So whenever I drink my dirty iced chai latte, and yes, I'll add espresso to my chais, you haters. So Chris, whenever I drink that, you're the person who maintains that blend of that before I drink my iced chai latte with you guys.
Yes, I do that. I do that work.
Never mind the bastardized tea over here. So you're the reason that there's lavender in the Earl Grey?
That's a historical precedent that predates me. That predates me. You
didn't take it away.
I did not take it away. That's true. And if you want to know the historical precedent, if you know Steve Smith, that was actually Steve Smith and Tazo that really brought that in. And so that was one of the things that he really liked with bergamot and lavender. They do work very hand in hand in that regard. So yes, that is always a tie to some historical figure within the tea space.
Well, you know me, I love my history.
And knowing you do love history, but you're Barefoot Tea Lady. So you create videos on YouTube and you create reels on Instagram, but you've been tea blogging for quite a while too.
Mm-hmm. I've been blogging for quite a while. I kind of took a little bit of time to find my niche. I did a little bit about beauty, skincare, life, vintage stuff, and tea was just kind of a constant thread throughout it all. And now it's pretty much focused on tea when I blog. I haven't actually done a lot on the blog or even on YouTube recently because I discovered TikTok. So Barefoot Tea Lady is mostly on TikTok, a little bit on Instagram now because it's just so much easier to film short form and I can get out a lot of what I do now is about the historical context of tea.
So I have to say, your YouTube videos, I always learn something new for. It's almost like Nova on PBS, but tea version. If there was a tea Nova on PBS, it would just be your YouTube channel and your reels because every time I watch you, I learned something new, but it's fascinating and it's entertaining at the same time. Mm-hmm. How do you balance the two? Because education is not always interesting, but you manage to perfect that.
So I've been told that the thing that makes people interested in learning about a topic is by learning it from someone who is interested in that topic. So I tend to only make videos on topics that I am passionately interested about or things that I just find really neat. And I think that translates to the video and engages other people.
And Nicole, you've been in tea for 13 years.
It'll be 14 in October, yeah.
So for being in tea so long, you've obviously, I've not been in it that long. I'm working on my 7th year now, but it always seems like I'm always learning something new. And even in going into in a year or two, you'll be like 15. You still must be learning stuff every day about tea.
Yeah, that's
it's
the
endless.
thing I think that really draws me to tea and keeps me going with it, that there's always something new to learn. There's lots of stuff that even the whole industry thought was true 14 years ago. And now we know things are different, when I first started, everyone would throw out their white tea because it was old, and now we all age it and sell it for more money. So things definitely change a lot over time.
And a side note about white tea, it's funny how I have had so many people tell me you can drink white tea because it's caffeine free.
Oh.
Yeah.
That.
I had some nights when I started blogging where I would stay up all night because I drank white tea before bed, and I blame it on mental health issues. But no, I just due to misinformation, I was doing the wrong thing. Anyways, but Chris, you're at Starbucks, and Starbucks they do tea. Like they do have a refined tea selection. So when did you get into Starbucks? Like, was this pre-Teavana or post-Teavana, if I may ask?
It was post Teavana. So really to contextualize, my tea journey really started when my parents started a tea company when I was 8 years old. That's called Teas Etc. At 19, I joined their business doing their flavored blends and their quality work. And then it was only in 2017 that I transitioned into Starbucks in the roles that I have occupied since I've been here. So I've been here for 5 years. That was post Teavana transition. And so I came in right as they were, ironically enough, closing down the stores, the Teavana stores, and kind of shifting the business. And so that's been a real interesting challenge. But I was a part of opening the tea sections for the roasteries, both in Shanghai and in Tokyo, which have beautiful tea spaces. And in Tokyo, we kind of really push the idea of fresh milled matcha right on the floor of the roastery space. So really interesting stuff, and so have gotten the opportunity to really do some fun things while also traveling and finding really cool tea. So,
So for people watching at home, before you come at us for Teavana reasons, he's trying to grow. He's trying to help tea spread more. He was after the Teavana debacle. He's a good one. He's one of the good ones.
First off, I was tea before Teavana, and I will be.
I was tea before Teavana.
I was tea before Teavana, before moving
cool.
and transitioning into Starbucks. So and working on the Teavana brand, which I like the brand, and ultimately at the end of the day, whether you're a purist or just getting started, I view all of this in terms of tea journeys. I know people like myself who started out and it's like, I get a Kimun and I just fell in love with it. And I also know the people who start out with a flowery, pretty, highly flavored blend and end up incrementally understanding what Oriental beauty is, or, Baozhong, or any number of these things. And so, everybody has a tea journey, and ultimately at the end of the day, if you're not for people drinking more tea, then I really don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you're on the right ship.
But there's so many.
Well, I have a friend who opened a store. I have a friend who opened a tea shop in DC a few years ago. And when I was chatting with him, he credits Teavana with opening up the wider market to really quality tea in the US.
Yeah.
In the 90s.
I remember because they did have their top shelf selection, and that stuff was really good. I remember on my shift when I worked there briefly, I would make that often. Those were really good.
And we also have to acknowledge that the straight tea drinker is a minority within the North American tea space. 75% of the teas that are sold and consumed in this country are flavored. We can't, to ignore that is to not understand, but those people are all people who have the opportunity to become pure tea drinkers.
Absolutely.
We all know Cody isn't a straight tea drinker.
Ooh, shots fired.
That's not shots fired. He admits that.
I like the fruit teas. So, there's got to be a high percentage because the audience does change with tea for where it is in the market, and it felt like there for a while it was matcha and green tea. That was the health trend, and now it's not. There still is a health trend and a health aura surrounding it, but now it's like boba has taken over the market, and there's now a boba shop in some form or fashion in every town, no matter how big or small.
So good though.
And
you get boba shops that aren't kung fu tea.
We have those too.
We
have that mixture.
And I think if you really look at it, matcha's not gone away either. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about, you're talking about 15 to 20% growth in matcha imports year over year for the last 9 years. So tea growth has happened. I also think, unfortunately, COVID was a big driver in the attraction to the health side of tea. I generally kind of shy away from the health side of tea only because I think that if you're trying to consume something because it's healthy, you're not necessarily getting the highest benefit from it. The highest benefit, of course, being that, tea requires that we take a moment and share some time with people that are cool who also want to drink tea and take a moment for yourself, right? So I don't know.
See, I love tea because of the meditative aspects to it. It took me a while to really get it, but every time I'd go drink tea, it's because I was really stressed and wondered, if tea is supposed to help me, why am I stressed when I drink it? It was until after the fact I'm like, oh, you have to actually drink it. My brain cells had logic in there at one point. I promise. It did. We're going to move on to our activity today. So our activity, about a month ago, I posted on my story where people can send in their tea confessions, and this is all anonymous. But we're gonna read these. I'm gonna read these confessions out loud, and we're gonna play a Never Have I Ever game with these confessions. So if we have done the thing that this person has confessed to doing, we will take our tea and we will take a sip of it and maybe discuss after. Are y'all ready for this game?
Ready.
I'm just concerned I'm going to get thirsty and then just drink and potentially not have never have I ever.
So
I don't think I said that right.
Not a terrible one. Make sure it's not a bad one then.
Just make sure it's not about Lana Del Rey.
Yeah.
There's a history there. All right, so I have the questions pulled up, and I have to say, some of you guys really okay. So this one we'll start the game, and they start out strong and they stay that way. They don't let up, by the way. So for our first Never Have I Ever, sometimes I start a session one day, forget about it, and then steep more of the tea from the same session the next day. Okay, I'm going to assume when they say session, they mean Gung Fu session. I'm just going to be assumptive here. How do you, I have to ask, not that I'm judging, but how do you forget a Gung Fu session?
Oh, I can see forgetting a Gung Fu session. I can't see forgetting food safety rules.
Am I being judgy?
Because tea molds like that.
I live on the edge. I live on the edge. And generally it's the forget piece, generally it's because I'm called away from the tea session that I just end up leaving it there. Granted, I won't generally leave it like in my Yixing pot or in the like teaware, so that piece would be like really sketch to me. But I have had leaves that I'm just like, those are really expensive. I really want to get my full dosage. And I always regret it, by the way. The fact that I infuse it a couple extra times, even though it's the next day. Yeah. I've been that cringy like that for sure.
Well, like, I will do this, but not with like the middle of a session. But when a session ends, I'll walk off and go, oh crap, I need to go to the gym, or I need to go protest something in the streets because I have nothing else better to do with my time. And like, I'm like, I'll clean this teaware later. I'll come back and I'll clean it when I get back home. Then like the next day, I'm like, why is all my teaware stained and ugly? I'm like,
this one is still dirty.
That's the cardinal sin for me, is just like leaving it in there overnight. Like that would make me feel
this
real
one still
bad.
has some leaves in it.
There's still leaves like on the floor in front of my humidor. They're like, I don't know.
But this one is clean.
So
I mean, you don't want to mess with that.
So the next confessional, I think the joy of drinking a new tea cake overshadows the benefit of letting it rest. That's not a never have I ever. I guess if you follow that train of thought.
So, like, never have I ever let a tea cake rest?
Yeah. Or the joy of it overshadow. Have you ever let the joy of a new tea cake overshadow the idea of letting it age?
Yes.
I really never let my tea rest.
So I'm with you, Nicole. I'll just expand on this because I have two trains of thoughts. One, I like tasting tea as it comes out of the mail, and I like trying it like every week and just seeing how it changes in my humidor over the next month or two. To me, that's fun to watch it change. The other one is, if you enjoy drinking a new pu'er tea cake, drink it if you enjoy it now, because there's no guarantee when you age it, it's going to be as good as it is now, based on preference.
The last time I left something to age, since I don't have a humidor and I live in the swamp, it molded. My purple bud tocha from Mountain Stream, from the wild garden run by adorable Buddhist monks and nuns, molded.
Yeah, that's why they invented the pick, so you can just pick that part off and keep going.
Guys, don't. There's a disclaimer under
safety.
Chris, there is a disclaimer only under you right now, Chris.
Does not represent advice from the oolong drunk.
FDA. Okay, I think I'm definitely getting bored of Shung, but I overbought a lot of it out of excitement, so now I'm forced to drink it even though I don't enjoy it anymore.
Make 5-element tea then.
Also, Shung doesn't go bad. Wait
So
until you're in the mood for it again.
So you drink, you have a bunch of it, I assume, stored away, but it's not, but you'll like come back to it. It's not like you're like, I'm done, the end. Right? Okay.
Yeah, no, like I go in, I have tea moods too, and I'll buy a whole bunch of tea because I get really excited about something and then be like, nope, sick of it. I did it with Yencha, I did it with Shung.
I get that. Because for me, it's like seasonal. I won't drink Chaud Puer in the summer.
Yeah, no.
I don't.
Yeah, no, that's a winter tea.
Yeah, no, there are basically two kinds of tea that I could drink any day, anytime, any season, and that is jasmine tea and Earl Grey.
Yeah, I've never had a problem with Shung ever.
I've had a problem with like specific cakes where I'm like, I don't like this one now. I won't touch it for a while, then come back to it. But not like my whole collection.
I feel like Shug varies so much, just even from tea to tea, that I could never really get bored with it. That like, if you're bored with this one, just drink a different one.
That's how I feel about oolong.
Totally different.
I love it when people say they don't like oolong, and I'm like, that is one of the most varied varieties of tea.
I'm about to say, like, the umbrella of oolong is so much bigger than like the umbrella of like Chaud Puer.
I had someone once tell me that they didn't like oolong, and then I served them one oolong, and they were like, I guess I like oolong. I was like, yeah. You've never had this particular aged Tiguan Yin from Mucha. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Like, do you not like roasted or unroasted? What oxidation level?
But to the Shung, I also think with Shung, storage conditions are really key. So, like, I feel like, particularly in Seattle, there's something to like wet storage, and I don't know, it feels very Seattle to me to drink like wet stored puer versus, pristinely stored puer.
Accidental Chaud Puer.
Yeah, accidental show.
So we have 5 left, and we are on the back end of how much time we have. So we'll try and run through these a little more quickly. So this next one says, sometimes I just stack steeps of expensive tea while standing over the sink and then chug them out of a mason jar while in the car on the way to work. I've done this only twice.
I've done that.
This, except it's a insulated thermos on the metro.
I got my Yeti cup.
Advanced mason jar there.
Yeah. The next one. Sometimes I'm purposely oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, sometimes I'm purposefully lazy and clumsy when brewing with specific teaware that I don't jive with anymore, because if I break it, then I'll have an excuse to go buy more teaware that I like better.
I've never needed an excuse to buy more teaware.
No.
Same here.
If I don't like a piece, I'll just give it to somebody else. But there's never a reason
the re-gift. Yes, totally. The re-gift.
I used an old. What do I have? I had one tea set that I bought that I just cannot stand the texture of. It's this like rough sandy glaze thing, and I use it for candles.
See, I purposely broke a teapot on purpose. I drilled a hole in the bottom of it to use it as a planter because I wanted to repurpose it. I didn't use it anymore, but then it killed the plant because it still wasn't enough ventilation. And then I eventually broke the pot by accident and realized that was a stupid $40 wasted that I didn't have to waste. Like, why did I do all this? I could have had this pot back to normal.
Yeah, I just had to buy a live basil plant because they didn't have basil at the store besides the live plants, and I stuck it in a matcha bowl.
I circle back to Nicole's re-gift strategy. That seems to be the best way to do it. Don't create waste. Just give it to somebody else.
Well, this next one, I feel like will spark a debate, so I'm going to save this for last. So real quick, these other two. My brother-in-law sent me an advent calendar from, we're going to leave that out, but I drank one of the tea bags and then gave the rest away because I didn't like it. So to make it more generalized, we re-gifted tea. I assume that's not...
when you
That's not
really like
taboo.
tea, people know you like tea, and they're trying to be thoughtful, and they'll get you some gift set that they found at Marshall's, and it's not good, but it's the thought that counts,
No, the
but
worst was when my mom gave me a sampler of herbal teas for sleepy time, and one of them had valerian root. And it had
Ooh,
to be
feet.
feet. Yes, it had to be sequestered until I found someone who was willing to take it.
I mean,
Sorry,
I
Mom.
do this. I do the same thing with Origin too. You go to certain gardens and they just don't. It doesn't hit, and they'll give you samples, and it's like, okay.
So when I released my report on aged white tea, there for a while when I did tea exchanges with friends, they'd mostly send their version of aged white tea, but then they end up asking, "Is it real?" And I'm like, I just wrote a report on it. I can't analyze all of them. Like, yeah, that's such a rabbit hole for another discussion. Sometimes I eat the whole gaiwan of leaves after a tea session.
not a gaiwan of leaves, but maybe a kyushu. Japanese teas make for much better eating.
What did I do that's wrong? Look, if it's depleted, and assuming that most of my teas I brew or infuse like at a simmering boiling temperature, and I'll just like, I guess it's like the left brain does it and the right brain is like, oh, you're eating a leaf, and it's just like mindless. I don't know.
But the whole gaiwan is not mindless. You're not like and
Like a bag of chips.
and I've been to so there are
chips.
But there are places in Tokyo that actually do take the leaves and prep them in a way that you're going to then eat the leaf afterwards. But that's salted, and they use miso, and they use all the different types of things to actually prepare it, like to make it into something that you would eat on. Totally makes sense. Also, not the weirdest thing I've heard about with old tea leaves. Like, I met a person who made like tea pillows out of their used tea leaves, like re-dried them and then stuck them in. Yeah. Please.
That's like the saving your hair and turning it into.
Yeah, it's bizarro. So
I got it. After the 4th season, I'm going to that place in Japan. They those are my people. We get each other.
There you go.
I'll send it over to you.
And yes, this last one is always a controversial topic in every circle I've been in. So the fact that they admitted it's not shocking, but it's very vitriolic. The idea of this. Are you ready? I brew my green tea with boiling water. Does fresh shung count? Because if fresh shung counts.
No, it doesn't. I have literally boiled chunmei tea for 20 minutes with the leaves in it and drunk that.
That's horrifying.
It's a little astringent. It wasn't terrible. I feel like it's a testament to the shop I bought this tea from that it's not terrible.
That's true. That's true.
It was not strong to begin with and maybe stale, so it could withstand it.
Or that. No, but it didn't have that weird astringency that you get where it's the last thing that leaves a tea.
The razor blades effect.
Okay. So there is stuff out there. There are studies that show temperature and water can affect the different acids in tea when making it.
Yeah, but brewing instructions are like the pirate's code. It's really more like guidelines. Do what tastes good to you.
Exactly.
Yeah, I view it as an equation, not a set there's no set parameters for how you brew. I like to do boiling for 15 seconds on a green tea. Then that's how I'm going to enjoy it. It brings out a little bit more umami in my personal, which is more my preference. Or like with Dragonwell, it brings out more of that butter note and really the chestnutty sort of character, which is what I'm looking for. And so I think it's just, know-how more so than anything else.
But I won't ever judge anyone for it because I'm very much brew it how you want. I just may not do it for myself though.
Yeah. Also, when people are like, you're going to burn the leaves, they're dead already.
Well, you can't burn something with water. You singe it with water, right?
Exactly.
No, you can burn something with water, like skin.
Wouldn't that be? But no, that wouldn't be like singeing your skin.
It depends on your definition of burn.
I would actually like to circle back to the idea that they're dead. Are they dead, or is because we halted oxidation make them not quite dead
they're
yet?
off the plant.
They're just
Fair
frozen.
enough. Yeah, but like when we
But
when
what
we
if
They're
fire,
only
Oh.
sleeping. They're only sleeping.
they're only sleeping.
It's
Exactly.
okay,
What do you-
kids.
So what about yellow tea when it's both?
What?
Because yellow tea has some oxidation to it. It turns yellow when they steam it and before they kill green it completely.
I am not well versed enough in yellow tea to make
But-
a comment.
My argument is merely that if oxidation is part of the desiccation process of any sort of plant material, by firing it, you're halting said oxidation, which means that it wouldn't technically be dead. It's like the tea leaves are technically not truly dead.
They're still
in that
partly alive.
Well, just because the cellular structure might be doesn't mean that. I mean, the leaf's not going to grow anymore because it's not on the
Right. Like, is a person dead if they're decomposing from their own bacteria?
So
Fair
are we
enough.
saying
There are a lot of
he's a
people.
zombie?
That's
Tea is
that was
zombie
where I was
tea.
going. That was where I was
There we
going.
go.
Thank you, Nicole.
I don't know, but Jen, I know a lot of people who are dead inside.
Yeah. We're called millennials.
Well, here's the other thing. When we talk about the aged white tea, which we've dropped in here several times, that continues to oxidize over time. The decay process is still taking place.
It also ripens. It's kind of like a.
Yeah.
Like, I've heard
Yeah.
that the pu'er white tea aging process is more ripening, and it's more akin to how cheese is aged. So tea is as alive as cheese.
Cheese feels very alive to me, particularly when it
Definitely.
squiggles in your mouth.
Food safety.
And
Food
we
safety.
circle back
That's
there.
for having a session and walking off till the next day. That's why your tea is moving when you drink. Anyways, guys, this has been fantastic for our first panel of the season. So we're going to thank Nicole, Tea for Me Please, Jenn of Barefoot Tea Lady, and Chris of Starbucks and World Tea Media. We are now going to go over to our very new segment, Fan Mail. Yes, what is it? We'll find out here in just a moment. We'll see you guys later.
Was that just not great or what? I love today's panel. Alrighty, so as far as fan mail goes, what's that you may ask? Well, fan mail is a brand new segment that we're doing here on the show where if you send your fan mail to this new P.O. Box address here on the screen, I will read your fan mail out loud here on the show. We got this P.O. Box just for the show, just for season 4, and can't wait to see what you send in. Again, it's at this P.O. Box address here on the screen. Alrighty, can't wait to see what you send in next week. Now, let's move on to Snarky Teas. We've had a project underway, and I can't wait to tell you about it. Let's go over to Philadelphia and see what it's all about.
Alrighty, and welcome. We have our last and final guest of the season premiere tonight. We're going to let her introduce herself. She is Snarky Tea, but she is legendary. And we're going to go into why Snarky Teas and why this particular person here is just so legendary. So I want to tell everybody at home watching, who are you?
My name is Jenny Lynn Williams, and I am the Chief Snark Officer at Snarky Tea.
So Jenny, a lot of people may recognize you because you're one of the only tea people who've not only gotten to pitch their tea business to a bunch of investors, you did it on Shark Tank on NBC.
Yes, ABC, but yes, I did.
ABC.
It's okay. They're not watching. They're not watching.
But not everyone, I don't know if anyone else watching has seen this, but your tea company, Snarky Teas, are tongue-in-cheek. They're hilarious. It's almost, I wouldn't say comedy-based, but they're very catchy and they're fun and they're humorous. They bring a smile to people's face, but you brought them onto Shark Tank. And the amazing thing about this, because I rewatched this clip of you, or the actual segment of you on Shark Tank, and I could not be more proud of how incredible it was, because you're reading the names of these teas out to people like Mark Cuban on TV.
Yes.
And they bleeped you out so many times in your episode.
What a shame. They should have just let it fly.
So, like, for instance, I love these teas that you have. Like, this one you just released for fall called Basic Bitch. It's pumpkin spice flavored.
Absolutely. Pumpkin
Yes.
spice. It's a gateway spice.
Like, but the name is just, this is, you nailed it. Like, and this is, like, life's a fucking picnic. It was your summer watermelon mint tea. Life, and that's, like, snarky. Like, that's the whole point. Like, some of my other favorites you have in here is the Get Your Shit Together blend.
Mhm.
I love that one. One of my favorites too is Fierce Bitch.
A very popular one, yes. That's like a signature blend for us.
And it's just a rosy black tea, but it makes you fierce.
Yes, absolutely. Slay all day.
But then you had a Pride tea that's June? Yes. Pride, I should know what month Pride Month's in, of all people. But it's called Proud as Fuck. And
It is, yes.
I love this. I added edible glitter to it and was drinking it sparkly in the sun, being proud as fuck.
Why didn't I think about edible glitter?
There's next year, right?
Next year, it's gotta happen. Edible. Why wouldn't I have thought of that? But yeah, that was a great blend. That was one of our most popular ones. Yes.
And I have to ask, so when reading these names, so when you were on Shark Tank, you had no qualms about reading these out loud. Like you didn't censor yourself.
Yeah, I am actually from Philadelphia, so I think it's like culturally, like we were not like that's how people speak around here. My grandparents spoke that way, my parents spoke that way. So to me, it comes out very naturally. I actually did not know that people didn't speak like that until like I got older and I started being in the working world, and I would look at people's faces and reactions when I would drop an F-bomb. So it really wasn't taboo for us. So yeah, I had no problem dropping some F-bombs on national television. No problem at all.
But the audacity is just insane, but in a good way, because people like Mark Cuban, like there's got to be some dissociation with him in everyday life. So for you to go on there and bring reality to their reality show, so to speak, is just amazing. The way you did it was just incredible.
Yeah, part of the truth is they're just people, right? Like they, especially like as business owners, I think entrepreneurs probably historically drop a lot more curse words in their daily routine because they're not expected to stay within any kind of lines. Like we're just people. We're all the same. They curse and they know it. So, having me go in there and do that, like I was really apprehensive at first. I didn't want to apply because I was like, there's no way they're going to let us on the show. Like it's run by ABC. I hadn't even really thought about it. We were only 8 months in business when we filmed for the show. But I actually got into the Oscars gifting lounge. And you know who Randy Jackson is from American Idol?
Yeah.
He was like, he loved the teas. He's so cool. And he came over and he was like, did you invent these or make up these? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I want to shake your hand. And I'm like, what? Randy Jackson's shaking? And he goes, you have to go on Shark Tank. And I was like, I don't think they're going to let me on because of all the swears. He's like, no, ABC, like, I think they have a record for the most swears on broadcast TV. You can look that up. And then he left. And I was like, fuck, I got to do that now. Randy Jackson just told me to do that. Like, I believe in signs from the universe. And if that's not one, I don't know what it is. So I was immediately, as soon as I got home, I applied. I didn't tell anybody. And I didn't tell anybody, like, there's a long interview process. I wasn't telling anyone, like, even my husband. I was like, I'm not going to tell anybody because I'm excited. Until like they were like, all right, we're gonna fly you out. So then I told people, and yeah, I was just as surprised as most people were that they let us on there.
So Randy Jackson of American Idol on Fox sent you to Shark Tank of ABC.
Exactly.
But that's wonderful because these blends are. I've already had some of them because you sent a good amount of them, and I love them. And part of the reason why this show was started was for the anti-Karen. My railroading over the anti-Karens and the haters and the tea subredditors, you know who you are, is to break down the barrier of I can drink gung fu tea and be snobbish, but then the next day I will drink my fierce bitch over here and just love anything flavored. And we got to celebrate people, all tea drinkers of all kinds. But I have to ask you, so I got these teas, and they're a part of something that we're doing together just for the show. It's called your Calm the Fuck Down blend and Shut the Fuck Up blend that I have here. And I want to make one of them on here for the remainder of our interview because I think this is great. I want to do Calm the Fuck Down. This is a Caribbean for rooibos tea, and it's herbal. And I had to bring out my Blanche mug. It's Eat, Dirt, and Die Trash.
I love it.
It's my Karen mug. And so let's tell the audience, what are we doing with these two teas? Because these are very anti-Karen.
Yes. So we discussed doing a little bundle together, which is the Anti-Karen bundle, which is going to come with a really cute Karen-themed sticker and a few other little extra goodies. And I think Cody will drop the link somewhere for that. And then we're going to do 25% of profits or 50% of profits, 25% of sales to the Trevor Project, which you and I have both coincidentally worked with before.
Yeah, so we donated to the Trevor Project before on this show when it was exclusively on Instagram Live. But for people at home who don't know the Trevor Project, they are a suicide hotline for LGBT plus youth who don't feel like they have the resources and outlets to feel heard and understood. And there's a sad demographic. It's like every 10 to 15 minutes, an LGBT youth somewhere commits suicide due to the hate that they receive. So hopefully when you buy this bundle, it will go towards the Trevor Project and fighting the Karens, and especially the Karens who are against the gay children who don't deserve the hate. They actually need support and lots of it. And this tea will go to support that. Like she said, the link will be down below, and we're going to leave this open for, I don't know how long we're leaving this open for, but we'll leave it there for a great amount of time. And I'm going to go ahead and calm the fuck down. And while I do have to ask, you have one Karen moment that sticks out above the others. I have to ask, because you guys, who complains to you guys? Who would ever dare be a Karen to Snarky Tea?
We get a lot of them, believe it or not. So we have our profanities line, which is what you're consuming, which is sort of our starter line. It's kind of people coming in who are, maybe they're super familiar with loose leaf tea, maybe they're not. But we sell them in those great tins and refill pouches, and they're in biodegradable tea pyramids. It's made of Soylon. So it's sort of like a starter kit for people who are kind of dipping the toe in the water of tea. Maybe they didn't feel accepted by the culture, so they haven't really done it. And then when they come into our community, we start to educate them about loose leaf and how to use it and what tools and instruments you have at your disposal to really enjoy the full experience of tea, the ritualism, all those things. So a lot of people do come in on the profanities, and we get more Karens than probably most companies. Like after I was on Shark Tank, I was actually 8 months pregnant when the show aired, and I had like people emailing us saying like, I can't believe you're going to bring children into this world with that mouth. And I'm like, hell yeah, I am. And like we just get a lot of emails from people that are like, I refuse to buy your products. This is how I equate the internet.
Right.
So like when I was a little kid in the 80s, there would be signs everywhere because that's how people advertise their local businesses. So like, say I saw this somewhere, there was a comedian that sort of came up with this relation. So there used to be posters in town squares that would be like guitar lessons, call Joe at blah, blah, blah. The internet comments that we get are like ripping that poster off, walking around to every business in the square and saying, I don't want your fucking guitar lessons. It's like, not everything is for you. You don't need to rip the poster down and scream at the top of your lungs. Like it's so chaotic the way that we behave online because we don't act like that in real life because it's so, like you said, like dissociative, like people just, we are all human beings. We need to be nicer to each other. But yes,
but you had this one Karen in particular who really was not in her right mind.
And this is what brings me to like, there is just such, hypocrites in the world. This woman had emailed me. I was like 6 o'clock in the morning, and it said, please cancel my order. And she was very nice. She said, hi, I'm so sorry. You need to cancel my order immediately. I do not support businesses that use profanities. Unfortunately, last night I overdosed on Ambien, and I purchased your products under the influence of Ambien. So, please kindly just cancel the order. And like, you can't even make that up. Like, I was like texting it to my cousins, like, am I reading this correctly? Is this woman judging me after she OD'd on Ambien? Like, which, if you need Ambien.
You fell down that rabbit hole, Alice. Like,
come on, hun. We're all just people. Sometimes we OD on Ambien. Sometimes we let a swear slip, but don't judge me. I'm not going to judge you. But I did cancel her order for her, and I just sent her on her way. So I hope she's
Look, I gladly canceled your order. But
my coworker was like, you should send her some get your ass in bed and just wish her well. I was like, yeah, I should.
Well, we are going to keep fighting the anti-Karen. Again, it's these two teas. By the way, this is amazing, by the way. This is Calm the Fuck Down, which is a island vacation while sipping on delightful Caribbean fruit rooibos. Or we have this English classic brisk black tea and shut the fuck up. And this smells just like utterly incredible. They will be in a bundle, the Anti-Karen bundle, and they can find that at the link below. And remind them again what's going to the Trevor Project when they buy this.
25% of the sale, 50% of the profits are all going to the Trevor Project.
Perfect. Well, this has been great. I'm so glad you got to be on, and we will definitely be making one of your tea brewers. So after this episode airs, you could go over to Instagram at theoolongdrunk.com. We'll be making tea and this amazing ball jar brewer that you sent as well, because this is an amazing brewer.
Yes.
We'll be making that, and we'll be talking about the show on there as well.
Oh yeah, I love it.
All right. So thank you for being the last guest on the premiere of season 4.
It's been an honor. Thank you so much for having us.
Alrighty, next guys, we're gonna go back over to Ethan. He's gonna play us off, and we're gonna jump off the episode. Alrighty, let's bring Ethan back on.